"Pick anything you want," he said, until his daughters said, "We want that Apache woman as our mom." The house felt too empty, too silent. Ever since his wife had passed away, every corner reminded him of her absence. He looked at the pictures on the wall, smiling faces frozen in happier times, and felt a lump in his throat. He had tried his best to keep everything normal for his daughters, Emily and Sophie, but he knew that no matter what he did, life had changed for them forever. The girls were only 8 and 6, full of curiosity and energy, yet the sadness in their eyes sometimes broke his heart. He wanted to bring joy back into their lives, but he did not know how. That day, John decided to try something different. He called his daughters to the kitchen, where he had prepared some cookies and milk for their afternoon snack. Emily and Sophie ran in, their hair slightly messy from playing outside, and their faces lighting up at the sight of the treats. John smiled, trying to feel lighter than he had in weeks. He wanted to give them a moment of happiness, a chance to feel that life could still be full of surprises. "Girls," he said softly, trying to hide the worry in his voice, "I want to ask you something." The girls stopped chewing for a moment, curious. "I want you to tell me, if you could have anything in the world, anything at all, what would you want?" Emily blinked, unsure if she had understood him. Sophie's eyes widened with excitement, and she whispered to her sister. The two of them huddled close together for a moment, their little minds racing. It was unusual for John to ask such a question. He usually set the rules, made the decisions, and tried to control everything to keep life safe for them. But today, he wanted to let them dream. Finally, Emily looked up, her eyes sparkling with mischief and hope. "Daddy," she said slowly, we want that Apache woman as our mom." John froze. His spoon hovered over his cup of milk and he blinked, trying to understand what he had just heard. "Wait, what?" he asked, almost laughing in disbelief. "Which Apache woman?" Sophie jumped in, her small hands waving in the air. "The one we saw at the fair. The one who told us stories about her tribe. The one with the feathers and the pretty necklaces." John's mind raced. He remembered the cultural fair they had visited a few weeks ago, where people from different communities had gathered to share their traditions, music, and crafts. Among the many participants, one woman had stood out, a tall, graceful Apache woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She had been teaching children how to make little crafts and had told stories of her people in a way that had captured the girls' imagination. Emily and Sophie had loved her instantly, but John never thought they would say something like this. He took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Girls, you mean you want her to be your mom?" he asked carefully. He did not want to laugh at their innocence, but he also did not want to encourage a wish that seemed impossible. "Yes," they exclaimed together, their voices full of excitement. "We love her. She is kind and fun and teaches us new things. Please, Daddy, can she be our mom?" John looked at them, their little faces filled with hope and expectation, and his heart ached. He knew that they were not thinking about reality or the difficulties of life. They were thinking with pure hearts, the way children do. Their idea of happiness was simple: having someone kind and loving around to guide them, to laugh with them, and to care for them. And somehow, the thought of this Apache woman being part of their lives felt like a bridge to the joy they had been missing. After a long pause, John put down his spoon and rubbed his face. He realized that the girl's wish was not just about wanting a mother figure. It was about wanting love, warmth, and connection. For weeks, he had tried to fill that space himself, but he was only one person. And the girls, in their innocent way, had recognized someone who could bring something special to their lives. "Okay," he said finally, smiling softly, "let's see. Maybe we can meet her again." He did not know what would come next or how possible it would be to make the girls' wish come true, but he wanted to try. Their happiness was more important than his fear or hesitation. The girls screamed with joy, jumping up and down, hugging him tightly. "Thank you, Daddy, thank you, you're the best," Emily said, her eyes shining. Sophie added, "Yes, we love you, Daddy." John laughed, feeling a warmth in his chest that he had not felt in a long time. For the first time in weeks, the house did not feel empty. He could hear the girls' laughter bouncing off the walls, filling every corner with life and energy. The sun shone through the window, making the room glow as if it, too, wanted to celebrate this small moment of happiness. That evening, John could not stop thinking about the woman his daughters admired. Her name was Ayanna, he remembered from the fair. She had a calm presence, a soft voice, and a way of connecting with children that seemed natural. She had spoken of her people's traditions, shared stories about courage, family, and respect, and the girls had listened with wide eyes, hanging onto every word. John realized that Ayanna represented more than just a friendly figure from the fair. She represented hope, love, and a different way of looking at life, something that his daughters clearly needed. Over the next few days, John watched the girls closely. They would sometimes bring up Ayanna, talking about her stories, the songs she had taught them, or the little crafts they had tried to make. Each time, their faces lit up, and the sadness that had sometimes clouded their eyes seemed to fade, replaced by joy. John realized that their desire was not fleeting or shallow. It was deep, genuine, and full of innocence. Finally, one afternoon, John made a decision. He sat the girls down and said, "Girls, we are going to visit Ayanna again. I want you to see her, talk to her, and maybe we can get to know her better." Emily and Sophie squealed with excitement. They could hardly contain themselves, jumping up and down and hugging their father. "Really, Daddy? We can see her again?" Emily asked, her voice trembling with joy. "Yes," John said, smiling. "We will, but remember we have to be patient and kind. Sometimes things take time and we must respect others too." The girls nodded seriously, understanding more than John expected. They had learned that happiness sometimes required waiting, and their excitement was mixed with a quiet respect for the woman they admired. That evening, John prepared for the visit, feeling both nervous and hopeful. He did not know how Ayanna would react or if she would want to be involved with his family in any way. But he knew one thing: his daughter's happiness was worth taking the chance. And maybe, just maybe, this small wish could lead to something beautiful. As he tucked Emily and Sophie into bed that night, he kissed their foreheads and whispered, "We are going to see Ayanna soon. And who knows, maybe your wish will come true." The girls smiled sleepily, holding their father's hands tightly. For the first time in a long time, the house was filled with a sense of hope, a quiet, shining hope that perhaps the next chapter of their lives could be brighter than the one they had left behind. John sat by the window after they had fallen asleep, thinking of what lay ahead. Life had been hard, unfair even, but he realized that small moments of courage and love could change everything. The girl's wish might seem impossible, but he had learned that happiness often begins with believing in what seems impossible. And as he watched the stars appear in the night sky, he felt a gentle certainty that this was the beginning of something extraordinary for him, for Emily and Sophie, and perhaps for Ayanna too. John could not stop thinking about the girls, wished to see Ayanna again. The idea had taken root in his mind, filling him with both excitement and nervousness. He wanted to do the right thing, to make the visit a positive experience, and to respect Ayanna's feelings. After all, she was a kind and busy woman with her own life. He needed to be careful, gentle, and sincere. On a bright Saturday morning, John woke the girls early, the house alive with their eager chatter. Emily and Sophie ran around, putting on their best clothes and fixing their hair, as though they were preparing for something truly special. "Daddy, do you think she will remember us?" Sophie asked, her small voice full of hope. "I'm sure she will," John replied with a smile, ruffling her hair. "You made a big impression the first time, remember?" The girls giggled, nodding. Memories of the fair were fresh in their minds. The bright colors, the music, the crafts, and most of all, Ayanna's warm smile as she told stories about her people. They remembered the way she had knelt to their level, speaking softly and patiently, making each child feel important. Emily whispered, "I hope she likes the cookies we baked for her." John carried the small basket of cookies to the car. He had baked them with the girls the night before, letting them measure and mix the ingredients, giving them a sense of participation and excitement. The smell of chocolate and vanilla filled the kitchen, and John smiled at how happy this simple activity had made the girls. He knew it was not just about meeting Yana. It was about building memories, teaching the girls how to share, and showing them how love can be expressed in small, thoughtful gestures. Driving to the cultural center, John felt a mix of anticipation and worry. He did not know how Ayana would react to their visit. What if she was busy? What if she did not want to spend time with them? These thoughts made his chest tighten, but he quickly pushed them aside. He reminded himself that the girls' happiness was worth any uncertainty. When they arrived, the girls ran ahead, their eyes searching for the familiar figure. And then they saw her. Gianna was arranging crafts on a table, her long dark hair falling over her shoulders, her eyes gentle and welcoming. She looked up, and when she saw the girls, her face lit up with recognition. "Emily, Sophie, you're back," Gianna said warmly, kneeling to greet them. The girls ran into her arms, hugging her tightly. John watched quietly, feeling a mixture of relief and admiration. Gianna's kindness and patience were obvious, and it was clear why the girls felt so connected to her. "Hello, John," she said, smiling politely. "It's good to see you again, and it seems the girls have grown even more since last time." John nodded, feeling a little nervous but relieved by her friendliness. "Thank you for seeing us today, Ayana. The girls have been talking about you nonstop." Ayana laughed softly, a sound that was gentle and comforting. "That's very sweet. I'm happy to see them. I love spending time with children. They have so much imagination and joy." Emily and Sophie quickly offered her the basket of cookies they had made. Yana accepted them graciously, tasting one immediately and pretending to savor it dramatically, which made the girls giggle uncontrollably. "Delicious," she said. "You two are excellent bakers. This is the best treat I've had all week." The morning passed in a blur of stories, games, and laughter. Yana shared tales of her Apache heritage, speaking of the mountains, rivers, and animals that were important to her people. She told the girls about the value of respect, courage, and family traditions. Emily and Sophie listened with wide eyes, sometimes asking questions, sometimes just absorbing the words like a sponge. John noticed how their faces lit up with every story, how their imaginations seemed to grow, and how comfortable they were around Ayana. At one point, Ayana invited the girls to try making a small craft, a bracelet using beads and threads. She showed them patiently, helping their small fingers weave the colors together. Emily struggled at first, but Ayana's gentle guidance made her feel confident. Sophie was more determined, her tongue sticking out slightly as she concentrated. John watched silently, feeling a warmth in his chest he had not felt in years. This woman, this stranger who had captivated his daughters, was teaching them something more than crafts. She was teaching them patience, focus, and the joy of creating something with care. As the morning turned into afternoon, John and Ayana found a quiet moment to talk. They walked together near a small garden behind the cultural center, where the sun filtered through the trees and cast dancing shadows on the ground. John wanted to express his gratitude and curiosity without being too forward. "Yana," he began, "I can see why my daughters are so fond of you. You have a gift, a way of connecting with them that is truly special." Yana smiled, looking slightly embarrassed. "Thank you, John. Children are honest. They feel what they need and want, and I just try to be present with them. It's a joy to see them happy." John nodded, feeling both admiration and a touch of nervousness. I, I want them to be happy, of course, but I also want to respect your life and your time. I know this is unusual. My daughters spoke about you as if you could be part of our family, but I didn't want to ignore their wish. Yana's expression softened. I understand, John. Children's hearts are pure. They see love and kindness more clearly than adults sometimes. I'm touched by their trust in me, and I'm glad to be part of their lives in any way that is comfortable for everyone. The girls interrupted gently, running back toward them. Daddy, Yana, look, we finished our bracelets. They held out their colorful creations proudly. Yana examined them with admiration, clapping softly. These are beautiful. You both did a wonderful job. I am very proud of you. John watched the exchange quietly. He realized that the girls were not just having fun. They were learning about care, patience, and love. And through this, they were forming a bond with someone who was kind, thoughtful, and inspiring. For John, it was a relief to see them so happy, and it gave him hope that life could be brighter than he had imagined after his wife's passing. As the afternoon came to a close, Ayana knelt to the girls' level again. I had a wonderful time with you today, she said. Remember, it's not just about the crafts or the stories. It's about caring for each other, being brave, and always trying your best. Emily and Sophie hugged her tightly again, their eyes shining. We love you, Yana, Emily whispered. We want you to be our mom. Yana paused, touched and slightly overwhelmed. She smiled softly, placing a gentle hand on their shoulders. I am honored that you feel that way. I promise to be there for you, to guide you, and to support you just as a mother would. But remember, love is not just about titles. It's about actions, care, and being together. John felt a lump in his throat. Hearing Ayana speak with such warmth and wisdom made him realize that his daughter's wish might not be impossible. Perhaps, in time, their small family could grow in ways he had never imagined. As they drove home that evening, the girls chattered nonstop about everything they had learned and made. John listened quietly, smiling at their excitement. For the first time in months, he felt a sense of peace. Their lives had been touched by someone extraordinary, someone who brought joy, knowledge, and care. And for John, that was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, laughter, and the possibility of a family reshaped by love and understanding. That night, as he tucked Emily and Sophie into bed, John kissed their foreheads and whispered, Today was a special day. I am proud of you both, and I am grateful for Ayana's kindness. We are lucky to have people like her in our lives. The girls smiled sleepily, hugging their father's arms, and John knew that this connection would continue to grow, shaping not just their childhood but the future of their family. As weeks passed, Ayana began visiting John's home more often, and each visit strengthened the bond between her and the girls. Emily and Sophie looked forward to these afternoons with excitement that never seemed to fade. John noticed that their laughter was louder, their smiles brighter, and the house felt warmer when Ayana was around. It was as if her presence had filled a space that had been empty for too long, bringing life back into the home. Ayana had a gentle way of interacting with the girls. She never rushed them or imposed rules, but guided them with patience and kindness. She taught them small things about her Apache heritage, how to make tiny bead bracelets, the meanings behind the designs, and the stories connected to each pattern. She showed them how to respect nature, explaining how each animal, plant, and river held significance in her culture. Emily and Sophie absorbed everything eagerly, asking questions that sometimes surprised John with their curiosity and depth. Daddy, Emily asked one afternoon while threading beads into a bracelet, why did Ayana's people live close to the mountains? John smiled, unsure if he should answer. Well, maybe because the mountains gave them food, water, and shelter, he said, watching Ayana's patient expression. She nodded approvingly. That's right, Emily, Ayana said gently. Mountains are like guardians for our people. They provide protection, resources, and a connection to the earth. We learn from nature and respect it in everything we do. Sophie, always full of questions, tilted her head. Do you live in the mountains too? Yana laughed softly. No, I live nearby now, but my heart is always with the mountains. They remind me of home, my family, and the lessons I've learned. And I hope that by sharing these stories with you, you'll also learn to appreciate the world around you. The girls listened, wide-eyed, fascinated by her words. John watched quietly, realizing how much the girls were learning, not just about another culture, but about respect, patience, and love for the world. Iana's influence went beyond crafts and stories. She was teaching life lessons, and John could see the difference it made in the girls' behavior and confidence. One weekend, Ayana suggested a small adventure. "Why don't we go to the park near the river?" she proposed. "I can show you how to identify animal tracks and plants. It will be fun, and you can learn more about nature firsthand." Emily and Sophie squealed with excitement, and even John felt a spark of adventure. He agreed, feeling that this was another opportunity for his daughters to grow and learn in a safe and joyful environment. The following morning, they packed a small picnic, gathering snacks and water, and set off to explore. At the park, Ayana knelt down to show them the tracks of a small deer. "See these?" she asked. "These tracks are fresh. The deer passed by recently. The size of the hoof and the pattern tell us a lot about the animal. Nature is always speaking to us if we pay attention." Emily bent closer, tracing the tracks with her finger. "Wow, it's like the ground is telling a story," she exclaimed. Sophie nodded eagerly, looking around for more signs of wildlife. John felt a sense of pride seeing the girls so engaged and curious. As they walked along the riverbank, Iana picked up a small feather. "This is a bird feather," she said. "Each feather has a story. This one might belong to a bird that helps keep the ecosystem healthy. Everything in nature has a purpose, and we must respect it." Emily held out her hand. "Can we keep it?" Gianna shook her head gently. "No, Emily. Some things are meant to be appreciated where they are. Respecting nature means not taking what belongs to others, including birds, plants, and animals. We can admire, but we should also leave them safe." The girls nodded solemnly, taking in the lesson. John watched, amazed at how naturally Ayana taught values through experience rather than words alone. It was different from what he had learned as a child, more meaningful, more gentle, and full of wisdom. Back home, they spread out a blanket in the backyard and shared their picnic. The girls talked excitedly about everything they had seen: the tracks, the plants, the birds, and the flowing river. Iana listened with interest, asking thoughtful questions, making each girl feel heard and important. John joined in, feeling a sense of peace and belonging that he hadn't felt in a long time. Over the following weeks, their routine grew. Iana would come in the afternoons, sometimes bringing small projects or games, other times taking the girls outdoors to explore nature. John noticed changes in the girls. Emily, who had once been shy and hesitant, now spoke confidently and asked questions without fear. Sophie, who often worried about small things, seemed more courageous and curious. They were learning more than crafts. They were learning confidence, respect, and love for the world around them. One evening, John watched the girls reading a story Ayana had given them about Apache traditions. The girls were animated, discussing the characters and the lessons within the tale. John sat nearby, sipping a cup of tea, feeling a warmth in his heart. Ayana sat across from him, watching the girls with a gentle smile. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and John sensed a quiet understanding, a recognition that they were building something meaningful together. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of tension when cultural differences caused small misunderstandings. Iana sometimes noticed that John's approach to rules and discipline was different from her own gentle guidance. John, in turn, struggled to adjust to the way Ayana encouraged the girls to explore, ask questions, and express themselves freely. But over time, both realized that these differences were not obstacles. They were opportunities to learn from each other. They began discussing small disagreements openly, teaching the girls that communication and compromise were essential in any relationship. One afternoon, John found Ayanna helping Emily with a difficult math problem. She knelt beside the girl, patiently explaining the steps, encouraging her to think carefully. John noticed how naturally Ayanna combined teaching with care and attention. Emily's face lit up when she finally solved the problem and she hugged Ayanna tightly. "Thank you, you make learning fun," she exclaimed. Sophie, watching from nearby, whispered to John, "Daddy, she's like magic. She can make everything feel easy and happy." John smiled, realizing the truth in his daughter's words. Ayanna had a gift not just for teaching but for connecting, for making others feel valued and loved. And in his heart, he began to wonder if perhaps this gift could shape their family in ways he hadn't imagined. The girls' bond with Ayanna continued to grow. They would often imitate her songs, gestures, and stories, laughing together and sharing secrets. John observed that the house was no longer just a place to live. It had become a home filled with warmth, laughter, and learning. Even small things, like setting the table for tea or sharing stories before bedtime, became moments of connection and love. One weekend, Ayanna suggested a small cultural celebration at home. She explained the significance of a traditional Apache story and invited the girls to participate in a simple, symbolic ritual using flowers, stones, and small crafts. Emily and Sophie were thrilled. They carefully followed Ayanna's guidance, arranging the items, singing softly and laughing as they went. John watched quietly, amazed at how effortlessly Ayanna brought meaning and joy into their lives. As the day came to an end, Ayanna turned to John. "Your daughters are remarkable," she said softly. "They are full of curiosity, kindness, and courage. It's a joy to spend time with them." John felt a lump in his throat. "Thank you, Ayanna. You've brought so much happiness back into our lives." "I didn't know it was possible to feel this peace again." Ayanna smiled gently. "Happiness comes from love, John, and love is everywhere if we are willing to embrace it. You are a wonderful father and your daughters are lucky to have you. Together we can create something beautiful." That night, after Ayanna left, John tucked the girls into bed. "Today was amazing, wasn't it?" he whispered. They nodded enthusiastically, their eyes sparkling with excitement. "I think maybe our family can be even bigger and happier than before," Emily said softly. John kissed their foreheads, feeling a sense of hope he had not experienced in years. "Yes," he said, "and with love, patience, and care, anything is possible." As he sat in the quiet living room later that night, he thought about the journey ahead. He knew challenges would come, but he also knew that the bond forming between his daughters and Ayanna was something rare and precious. It was a bond built on trust, care, and joy, one that could shape their lives for the better. And for the first time in a long while, John felt a quiet certainty that their family could grow stronger, fuller, and happier in ways he had never imagined. Life, however, was not without its challenges. As John, Ayanna, and the girls grew closer, they began to encounter obstacles that tested their patience, understanding, and trust. It was a period of learning, not only for the girls but for John and Ayanna as well. The happiness they had built together was real, but it required courage and care to navigate the unexpected trials that life often brought. One afternoon, as Ayanna prepared a small craft activity for the girls, John received a phone call from his sister. She had heard rumors about Ayanna spending so much time with the family and wanted to express her concern. "John," she said, her voice firm but worried, "I think you're moving too fast. You've only known this woman for a short time. Are you sure it's safe for the girls?" John felt a surge of defensiveness. He knew his sister meant well, but he also knew that her words carried judgment and doubt. "I appreciate your concern," he replied carefully, "but Ayanna has been nothing but kind, patient, and responsible. The girls love her and I trust her. I'm confident she is a good influence." Still, her words lingered in his mind, creating small doubts he had to confront. Could he truly protect the girls while allowing them to form such a strong bond with someone new? Could he trust his instincts, his heart, and Ayana's intentions? These questions did not have simple answers, and he found himself thinking about them constantly. Meanwhile, Ayana faced her own concerns. She was aware that integrating into an already existing family could be complicated. She wanted to be present and nurturing for the girls, but she also needed to respect their father's role, their routines, and the boundaries that came with a blended family dynamic. She spent many nights reflecting on how to balance her involvement without overstepping, how to be a guide and mentor without making anyone uncomfortable. Despite these challenges, the bond between Shiana and the girls grew stronger each day. Emily and Sophie continued to thrive under her guidance. Emily's confidence soared, and she became more willing to express her thoughts and feelings. Sophie, who had sometimes been hesitant or shy, started exploring the world with courage, asking questions, and tackling small challenges she once avoided. John noticed the transformation in them and realized that the presence of Ayana was not just making them happy, it was helping them grow into kind, thoughtful, and confident individuals. Yet, life's trials could not be ignored. One evening, while they were having dinner, a neighbor passed a comment that caught John off guard. "I see the girls are spending a lot of time with that woman," the neighbor said casually. "Are you sure that's appropriate?" John felt a flicker of frustration. "Yes," he replied calmly but firmly. "Iana is kind, responsible, and caring. She brings joy to the girls' lives and I trust her completely. That's what matters." The neighbor shrugged and walked away, but John could not ignore the uneasy feeling that lingered. Society often questioned what it did not understand. The girls' happiness and well-being had to be prioritized, but it was challenging to face judgment or unsolicited advice. John realized that love sometimes required courage, not only the courage to open one's heart, but also the courage to stand firm against doubt and criticism. In the midst of these challenges, Ayana organized a small storytelling evening at John's home. She invited the girls to sit on cushions in the living room while she shared stories of bravery, family, and respect from her Apache heritage. Emily and Sophie listened intently, their eyes wide with wonder, completely absorbed in the narrative. John watched from a distance, feeling both pride and relief. These moments were teaching his daughters lessons that no classroom or textbook could offer. During the story, Emily suddenly raised her hand. "Ayana, what should we do if people don't understand us or judge our choices?" she asked sincerely. Ayana paused, looking thoughtful. "That's a very important question, Emily," she said gently. "Sometimes people will not understand your heart or your decisions. That does not mean you are wrong. You must be patient, stay true to your values, and show kindness. Love is stronger than judgment. The people who matter will understand your actions and your intentions over time." Sophie nodded quietly, absorbing the wisdom in her sister's words. John felt a lump in his throat. These lessons were as important for the girls as any academic subject, and he realized that Ayana's presence was shaping their character in profound ways. Despite the growing bond, there were also moments of tension. Emily, full of energy and curiosity, sometimes became impatient when learning new crafts or tasks. Sophie, sensitive and careful, occasionally felt frustrated when she couldn't keep up with her sister. Gianna handled these moments with grace, guiding the girls to understand patience, empathy, and teamwork. One afternoon, Emily grew frustrated while trying to weave a complex bead pattern. She slammed her hands on the table, ready to give up. "I can't do it," she shouted, tears forming in her eyes. Yana knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Emily," she said softly, "it's okay to struggle. Struggling is how we learn. Take a deep breath and try again. I believe in you." Emily looked up, wiping her tears. She took a deep breath, tried again, and slowly completed the pattern. The sense of accomplishment on her face was priceless. Sophie clapped her hands, proud of her sister. John watched silently, realizing that these small challenges were helping the girls build resilience, confidence, and patience. Through these experiences, John also learned. He began to see the importance of letting go of control and allowing the girls to explore, make mistakes, and learn from them. Iana's approach was gentle yet effective, and John recognized that trust and guidance often mattered more than strict rules or immediate results. As time went on, John, Iana, and the girls began discussing the future. John wanted to ensure that everyone felt comfortable and valued. He asked Iana how she felt about being more involved in their family life, and she responded honestly. "I care deeply for the girls, John. I want to be there for them, but I also want to do it in a way that respects you and the family dynamic. We can move forward slowly, with patience and understanding." John nodded, appreciating her honesty. "That's all I ask," he said. "We don't need to rush. What matters is that we are honest, kind, and caring to each other." The girls, sensing the seriousness of the conversation, listened quietly. They were learning not just about relationships, but also about patience, respect, and love, the values that would guide them throughout life. One evening, after Iana had left, John reflected on the journey so far. There had been challenges, misunderstandings, and moments of doubt, but there had also been immense growth, joy, and love. The girls were thriving, learning, and becoming more confident. Iana had become a pillar of support, bringing warmth, wisdom, and care into their lives. John realized that trials were not obstacles to happiness, they were opportunities. Opportunities to learn patience, understanding, and courage. They were opportunities to strengthen bonds and create a family that thrived on love and respect. He felt a renewed sense of hope, understanding that challenges were part of life, but love could overcome almost anything. That night, he sat quietly in the living room, listening to the soft breathing of Emily and Sophie from their bedrooms. He thought about Ayana, the girls' laughter, and the moments they had shared. A sense of peace filled his heart. Despite the challenges and doubts, he knew they were building something meaningful, lasting, and beautiful. John whispered softly to himself, "Love is not easy, but it is worth everything. Together we can face anything." And in the quiet of the night, with the stars shining above, he felt certain that their family, unique, growing, and bound by trust, was ready for whatever the future held. Time passed, and John, Ayana, Emily, and Sophie had grown even closer. The challenges of the past weeks had strengthened their bond, teaching them patience, understanding, and the value of love. Emily and Sophie were happier than ever. Their laughter filled the house, their curiosity was boundless, and their hearts were full of trust and affection for Ayana. John had learned to trust not only Ayana, but also his own instincts and the guidance of his daughters' hearts. One sunny morning, the girls rushed to the living room, eager to show John and Ayana something special. They had prepared a small surprise, handmade cards decorated with drawings, colors, and kind words. Each card expressed their feelings in the simplest, most honest way: love, gratitude, and the wish to have Ayana as part of their family forever. Ayana knelt to receive the cards, her eyes soft and warm. She read each one carefully, smiling at the innocence and depth of the girls' words. "These are beautiful," she said, her voice full of emotion. "Thank you for sharing your hearts with me. I am honored." Emily, holding Ayana's hand, whispered, "We love you. You're our mom now, even if it's not the same as before." Sophie nodded, hugging her tightly. John felt a lump in his throat. The moment was simple, yet it carried more meaning than any words could express. The love between them had grown naturally, slowly, and beautifully. As the weeks turned into months, Ayana became an inseparable part of their daily life. She helped with homework, cooked meals together, taught them about her culture, and shared stories that sparked imagination and understanding. Emily and Sophie thrived under her care. They learned not only about traditions and crafts, but also about empathy, courage, and kindness. John watched quietly, feeling immense gratitude. He realized that family was not only defined by blood but also by the love, care, and support that people offered each other. One weekend, John decided to take a small trip with Ayana and the girls to the mountains that Ayana often spoke about. He wanted them to experience a place that held deep meaning for her and to see firsthand the beauty she had described in her stories. The girls were thrilled. They packed their bags with snacks, blankets, and their favorite books, excited for the adventure. The drive was filled with chatter, laughter, and questions. Emily and Sophie asked endless questions about the mountains, the wildlife, and the rivers. Yana patiently answered, sharing stories of her childhood, her people, and the lessons she had learned from nature. John listened, captivated by the way she connected with the girls and shared wisdom with such warmth and clarity. When they arrived at the mountain trail, the girls ran ahead, exploring the flowers, rocks, and streams. Iana walked beside John, pointing out animal tracks and explaining the significance of certain plants. "See how everything is connected," she said softly. "The mountains, the animals, the rivers, and even us. Every action we take matters, and every choice we make affects the world around us." John nodded, reflecting on the journey they had taken together. Life had not been easy, and he had faced many doubts and fears, but witnessing the growth of his daughters and the love they shared with Ayana made everything worthwhile. At the top of the trail, they sat together, overlooking the vast landscape. The sun was setting, painting the sky with shades of pink, orange, and gold. The girls held Ayana's hands and John wrapped his arm around her. It was a quiet, peaceful moment, a moment that felt like a promise of the life they could share together. "Daddy," Emily said softly, "I think this is the happiest I have ever been. I feel safe, loved, and excited about everything." Sophie nodded in agreement, her eyes shining with joy. "Me too. I feel like we are all together and nothing can break us." Yana smiled, holding them close. "That's the power of love, children. Love brings us together, gives us strength, and helps us overcome challenges. When we care for each other, we create a family that is strong, happy, and unbreakable." John felt a wave of emotion. He realized that this family, though formed in an unusual way, was complete. They were not perfect, and life would continue to bring challenges, but together they could face anything. The girls had taught him about the courage to follow the heart, and Ayana had shown him the importance of patience, understanding, and unconditional love. Back home, the family continued to grow closer every day. Yana helped the girls with schoolwork, encouraged their hobbies, and celebrated every small achievement. She also shared lessons about responsibility, kindness, and respect, not as rules but as ways to live a meaningful life. Emily and Sophie absorbed these lessons eagerly, often repeating them to John, who smiled, proud of how much they had learned. One rainy afternoon, as they sat by the window watching raindrops fall, Emily turned to John. "Daddy, I think we are the luckiest family in the world," she said. Sophie nodded, hugging Iana tightly. "Yes, we have each other and we have love, that's all that matters." John smiled, feeling tears of happiness prick at his eyes. "Yes, my loves, that's all that matters. Love, care, and being together, we are truly lucky." Yana, sitting beside them, placed a hand on John's shoulder. "Families come in many forms," she said softly. "It's not about where we start, but how we care for each other, how we choose to love. You have built a home filled with love, John, and it is beautiful to see." As the years passed, the bond between them only deepened. The girls continued to flourish, full of confidence, curiosity, and compassion. John and Ayana became not just partners but true companions, sharing responsibilities, joys, and challenges. Together, they created traditions, celebrated holidays, and built a home where laughter, learning, and love were constants. Emily and Sophie never forgot the day they first expressed their wish. That innocent request, born from the hearts of two little girls, had transformed their lives. It had brought Ayanna into their world, bringing warmth, guidance, and joy. John often thought about how simple moments of honesty, hope, and love could shape the course of life in ways no one could predict. One evening, the family gathered in the backyard to watch the sunset. The girls were playing, John was sitting on a bench, and Ayanna was beside him. The air was filled with the gentle hum of nature and the soft laughter of children. John looked at the scene, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "This," he whispered to Ayanna, "is more than I could have ever hoped for. You've brought light back into our lives. You've made our family whole." Ayanna smiled, her eyes shining. "No, John, it was love that brought us together. You listened to your daughters, trusted your heart, and opened your home. We built this together." The girls ran over, hugging both of them tightly. "We love you, Mommy," Emily shouted. Sophie added, "We love you too." John held them close, feeling the warmth of their small, loving hands. It was in that embrace that he realized happiness was not about perfection or plans. It was about love, presence, and shared moments. The night sky appeared, stars twinkling above like tiny beacons of hope. John, Ayanna, Emily, and Sophie stood together, hand in hand, feeling a unity that could not be broken. They had faced challenges, doubts, and fears, but they had chosen love. They had chosen each other. And in that moment, John understood the truth of life. Families are built not only by birth but by love, care, and trust. Happiness is created in moments of connection, laughter, and shared joy. And sometimes, the simplest wishes of children, spoken from innocent hearts, can change everything. Their story, one of love, patience, and courage, had reached a point of peace and fulfillment. John knew that the road ahead would continue to bring challenges, but he also knew they had the strength to face them together. They were a family not because of rules, titles, or traditions, but because of the love they shared. And that, John realized, was the greatest gift of all. As the night settled over their home, the laughter of Emily and Sophie echoed softly in the rooms. Yana and John exchanged a quiet glance, a smile passing between them. They had created something rare, precious, and enduring. A family that had been chosen by love, nurtured by patience, and strengthened by trust. And in the hearts of everyone there was an unspoken promise that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, with courage, kindness, and love.